Come join Kyle, John and David as they go through what's on the playlist. Find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest. In and out points, no celebs and the gossip. Back in time where we're talking about the big M's, coming attractions, what the cue. Quick checks, who'll be laughing? You abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast where you hear all the latest in television, entertainment news with too many else that can't see a thing right now. I'm one of those hosts, David Allen. The other one is
John Burger. Third one is
Kyle Bridger. I'm blinded by Dave's sunglasses. They're so good.
Blinded by Science.
Yes.
The Total Eclipse of Your Heart. All those songs right now.
Yes.
Dark Side of the Moon. We can just run through them.
Of course. But for our blank, I gotta say that I am disgruntled to John's Bruce Springsteen, to Dave's Mocha Joe. He is Mocha Joe.
I am Mocha Joe. I'm
and
so
John
mad
got
with spoiler. I guess we're all mad. We're all disgruntled with Larry David, but are we okay with how the series finale concluded? Yes, we're gonna break down the finale that was 12 seasons, 24 years in the making. We're gonna break it all down, and then we're going from one entertainment legend in Larry David to another tonight with Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yep. Yes, we're going to settle up our Oscar.
It's not your
punishment.
child's Winnie the Pooh.
No, it is not. It is not. We got a lot to say. Two weird things to talk about tonight, and then maybe some quick checks at the end. It's a wild show. It was a wild day out there with the solar eclipse. It's going to be a weird one, folks. Speaking of weird, no in and out points tonight. We're going right to it. Let's go back. Send us back.
In time.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
I have to say, we really
Yes.
did forget about in and out points this week.
I forgot.
We forget.
There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
We forgot them. I remembered the name. Here we are. Traveled all the way back to last night, April 7th, when the Curb Your Enthusiasm series finale aired. No lessons learned. After 24 years, 12 seasons, and 120 episodes, Larry David says goodbye to Larry David, the curmudgeon, in the finale that mirrors the Seinfeld finale, which he returned to write back in 1998. It's all mixed together in this weird pseudo-real thing that Larry has created. Let's just start off, I guess, Kyle, your thoughts as a whole, Curb Your Enthusiasm, the final season, the series finale, broad strokes, what did you think?
I didn't like the early part of this season, but I had been texting, I think, the group and you, Dave, that I have been liking each episode a little bit more and more as we've gone along. And I think the season definitely got better toward the back half, to the middle of the back half. Definitely some very, very funny moments in the second half of the season. So I did enjoy it. The finale I thought was fine. I'm thinking back now. I don't even know if I've actually seen this Seinfeld finale. I'm like,
What are you talking about? I remember you binged
I know.
all of
I was
Seinfeld.
wondering.
You did a
I don't
quick
know.
check
I
on
don't
it.
remember it.
Are you pulling a Leon, like who binged the entire series and I guess missed the finale?
I really do think that's happened because I don't remember the courtroom stuff that well from Seinfeld.
Oh, wow.
So maybe it's just like I've seen a bunch of the Seinfeld episodes, but I missed the finale. So I'm sure there were like little Easter eggs in there that I was missing. But overall, I liked the season finale, the series finale. I thought it was okay. I thought it was just okay for a series finale. But, you know, as a whole, the second half of the season, much better.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for, I think, Larry to top himself with 12 seasons, which pretty much every single one of them ends with a series finale. Like, this is it. This is, like, I'm done, you know. There's a season where he dies and goes to heaven. I mean, like, you know, there's the fatwa, there's the producers. There's so many, like, these big climactic like endings of stuff, and then it's like, oh, we'll do another one. Forget everything. We're doing another one. And this one supposedly is the last one. It, ties it all together because, yes, we called it, or, we talked about it. At least I did at the beginning. But then again, the whole world...
You called it.
The whole world, I feel like, was also in on it, too. This mirrored the Seinfeld finale. This season, between, the storylines, the guest stars, it was everything, with Jerry and just the trial. And it's interesting because I thought you would have been well versed in this finale, especially, watching it so recently, but you may have missed this year. But I just love it because it's a little bit of the Spite Store season, because it's like, oh, you guys hated the Seinfeld finale? You thought I didn't do good with it? Well, guess what? I'm going to do it again. Just like, screw you. I'm doing it again. And he literally does it again. And other than even just the trial, it's just like little things. Maybe these are just coincidences, but like it starts off with like a plane ride. I mean, that's what the Seinfeld for. They were in the private jet going to, I think it was like Paris or someplace they were going to go to celebrate because Jerry, the show, just got picked up. And they had to, do this pit stop in Latham, Massachusetts. But like we start with a plane ride. Ted Danson's mentioned throughout that finale, and of course he appears in this finale. One of the biggest things was, almost like there was a little fake out at the end with the last line of dialogue. So in Seinfeld, the very first thing in the pilot is Jerry talking to George about the button on his suit, like on his shirt, where it's like, see, that button is just way too high. It's a no man's land. And he's saying all this stuff. And when they're in the jail cell at the end, they're doing that. And George is like, haven't we talked about this before? And it's like, oh, we ran out of material. We are done. We closed the loop. And we got this here. Like the first episode of Curb is the pants tent. And he's playing with the pants tent. And he's doing this here in the cell. And the camera starts zooming back, just like the Seinfeld finale, and you're like, oh my God, is he doing exactly the same thing? But then, no, we get the Jerry interrupts, and, changes it up a little bit and does a little like redo of maybe what they should have done in the Seinfeld finale. But I think the main thing, like, it's interesting because there's some people that are like with Seinfeld, it's like, oh, it ended. And people were mad because, oh, these 4 people that we really liked, you sent them to jail and they shouldn't go to jail kind of thing. Like, it's like an FU to the audience. Like, yeah, you've been rooting for these bad people this whole time.
But they were bad people. Yeah. But that doesn't make them less funny. It's just, they were not great people.
But then the other side of things were like, well, no, it's because it was just a clip show. Like, you had just all these clips. And it's a different time in the 90s when, this is before YouTube, where if you wanted to see the Soup Nazi, well, if you didn't watch it live and whatever it was, and you're not going to accidentally see it on syndication, at whatever time, you're not seeing the Soup Nazi. So it's like, oh, by doing this clip, it's like, oh, there he is. I think the issue was when they actually aired it, they did like a highlights of 100, clip show best moments thing, and then they did the finale. So then it's like, we just saw these, like, so I think that's the reason. But anyways, we got a little bit of clips. I feel like these clips were at least like very short, and it is something a little different. 8 years versus 24 years. Yeah. There's a little bit more of a time. But
it's also like Larry looking back and like, I've done so many, like, not terrible things, but like just nuisance.
Like, I got away with this stuff?
I can't believe I've done all this. He can't remember it, so it's like he has to go back through, like, oh yeah, I did do,
and it's like even like in the Seinfeld finale where they're like, oh, Yev Kassem is here, and they're like, Yev Kassem. It's like, oh, that's the Soup Nazi. They all have these names for people. Yeah. And so then at one point, I can't remember his actual name. They're like, oh, who's that? And they're like, it's Mocha Joe. Like, they have like all these little like nicknames and stuff for people. And what's wild for me is, like, I'm sure this was a deliberate choice, but for most of the season, and even really this episode, like, they don't really actually ever even call out this similarity. You would think at some point somebody would point out, like, the irony. Like, at just even a point, like, Jerry, when he first sees him, like, isn't this crazy? Like, you're getting a trial over this, like, dumb law? That was the Seinfeld finale. Like, what is this, like, weird? They don't, like, mention it, but, like, once the judge actually sentenced him, it like becomes like so on the nose where it's like, you have a history of doing the same thing wrong over and over. I'm going to sentence you to 1 year in prison. And it's like, okay. And then Jerry Seinfeld sees him there. It's like, believe me, you don't want to end up like this. Like, trust me. And then, this is how we should have ended it. Like, so it's gets a little bit too much on the nose there. But other than that, did you, like, was it clear for you that this was how it was going to end? Because I mean, saw there were some like fake outs that in the penultimate episode, even in this episode, which we can discuss in a second, but was there any questions that maybe they would do this, but then also do something else or add something else in?
No, I mean, you kind of called it with this, and I mean, like you said, it was kind of going in this direction, but the one thing that surprised me is, and luckily she turned back into her usual self, is like the fact that he would get Susie Essman's character to even like go along with any of his plans just seemed like a little bit too far-fetched for me. And luckily it turned around, but it was all for that joke of being like, you guys are really, really this bad, But yeah. I was like, she would have never gone for this in the first place, I
definitely had that thought. And even my wife, who has seen most of Curb, but it's been a while, and she was like, Susie wouldn't do this. Yeah. Like, it's just like, it just seems like it was like, oh, this is just like a fun thing that we could put her in an outfit and like a wig and like have this like moment. Mm-hmm. But like, unless for some reason Jeff was like, because she got the salad dressing that she really wanted, is like, I owe you anything, Jeff. Whatever you want, Jeff, I got you. And then just like, oh, you can do me a favor. Can you help Larry out with a trial? Maybe there was that and they just cut that scene out or we missed it or something. That's true. But that's the only thing I could think of because, there was no reason for her to dress up and do that for him in that moment. But I guess for like the fake outs I was going to like talk about, because like in the penultimate episode, we're talking, Bruce Springsteen and COVID. Larry gets COVID. There was even like a Me Too moment with the masseuse. But it's like, you already had those like as seasons. Like we had the sexual harassment season. We had the Larry dies and goes to heaven season. Like we already had these, which is wild. He's covered a lot of stuff. But there was a moment when Allison Janney's character, who's was dating Richard, there was a whole thing about a possible in the past suicide attempt that she was going to do over being broken up with Richard. But at the end of the episode, they're called it quits again. She got a gun, and Lewis is like, "It's not for me, it's for you, LD." She's coming for you. And I was like, "Are we gonna get some kind of like, maybe he gets out of prison and then immediately, it's the Sopranos cut to black ending, like doing that series finale?" Because Curb and Seinfeld started about the same time, which is wild. You
mean Curb and Sopranos?
Curb and Sopranos. What did I say? Seinfeld? Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. We've been like, instead of Don't Stop Believing, like end it too soon or something. Yeah. But
that would have been wild if they went that route. That would have been interesting. Yeah.
There were like also all the different finales that they like could have done. Like, oh, it's all a dream. Oh, it's all snow globe. Oh, it's it's all that kind of stuff. But
that would have been a wild thing to do, especially with like a new character that they just brought in.
Yeah. So not like a Maria Sophia or that Irma character or like those people. But I say, as much as I love the ending in the Seinfeld callback, it does feel like we've done a bit of this before. Not even, outside of Seinfeld, but like. There was the Fatwa season where there was that man, interviewing people in Larry's past on, like his, like on his character. And that's even like Michael J. Fox came back in that episode, to be a kind of like a character witness, like does Larry deserve this fatwa on him? So it's like, we kind of already did this, like going back at all the people that Larry has wronged to judge him for his sins kind of thing. And so it just feels like, we repeated that. We actually repeated a lot of stuff, I feel like, from this new like HD post New York City season that they've done, where you got the Seinfeld bits, the gifting of a pen, the wild baby names that he was coming up with for Sean Hayes and Daniel Levy's characters, Seven and Soda and all that stuff from Seinfeld. But even was referencing Curb, the anonymous donation plaque thing from Ted, the Groat's disease. There's all these like things where it's like there's times where it's like it's a callback, and then there's other times where it's like you're just doing this bit again. Like, did you forget you did this?
Yeah,
in '97 or 2004.
Yeah,
like,
there was one bit where I was like, I swear he did this in like season 3 or 4, and a lot of times it was a similar one with the housekeeping, and it's like I feel like we've done this hotel housekeeping bit about 3 or 4 times, and you've progressively gotten worse each time with it, Larry. It's like, do you just want to keep going back to it because this is like some kind of weird life that you're living now and you have to deal with it more? So you're like, why do I have to do this again and again? You know, it's one of those things. But I think that's why we said in the premiere that maybe it's time should have ended. Yeah. Luckily, I think the second half picked up enough where there was some definitely moments. Like I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about Curb, and it was like, it still has its moments, and that's really I would moments,
definitely.
Yeah, it's not like a full thing. You know what I mean? It's not great top to bottom. It's moments that Curb this year was good.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure, like for me, I really see the show as like 2 eras where it's, I'm trying to get the exact dates here. It really is the end of the New York City arc, the Michael J. Fox episode, which aired in 2011. Then that was the show's biggest like break, and it came back in 2017, and that was the Fatwa season. And you know, it's like going for like the HD and just like it's just the time off. It seemed it lost a little bit of rhythm, I feel like, in that. And sure, there's been great episodes since then, but yeah, it's more like moments. It's just you definitely see like the age of the show. And I mean, again, it's like I'm complaining about this guy who's done 120 episodes of this. I don't even know how many episodes he was there for with Seinfeld, but Seinfeld had like 180 episodes. But if he's done, you know, close to 300 episodes of stuff. And it's like, yeah, of course things are going to repeat. And also he created these, so he's allowed to move them around. It's just like, I just want like those first, I feel like 8 seasons were like, wow, like where do you come up with that? And how did these all connect? And then there's other times where it's like, you're watching episodes like, oh, this is going to connect to this and this. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Oh, and that happens. Okay. We got it. Like,
well, if you really think about it, I mean, this show he created on the back of Seinfeld. I mean, you could really say he's made a buttload of money with the same character in 2 different shows, in 2 different universes. You know what I mean? So he like took a character and made it 2 successful series from that character. It's wild. It's crazy. Yeah,
and then as kind of Leon points out, he's wasn't a big Kramer fan. It's like kind of made a Kramer for HBO in Leon. Yeah, and yeah, it's like he went from 1998. Well, he wasn't there for the last 2 seasons of Seinfeld, but he came back for the finale. I believe that's 98, and then the special, the Curb Your Enthusiasm special, was 99, and then the series started in 2000. So it's like he's been since 89 or whatever it is, to 2024. It's been a long time with George Costanza / Larry David. But there's points like in this season, I feel like also it's like it was feeling like a little stale or behind, just like with the timing of when they're filming and when they're coming out, because it's like to have storylines of like about long COVID and quarantines in 2024. Also, like you got them like being obsessed with like Wordle. It's just like we're a little too late on this. Like maybe that generation's still playing Wordle, but like we're on to connections now, buddy. Like that's the next New York Times game we're playing.
Yeah, I agree there. It was just too late.
Yeah. I want to go through. I know, and again, I feel like I'm nitpicking a little bit here. I still like the show, but I feel like one of the things like in later seasons that really kind of irked me is like, and again, like the second half of the show is like the guest star confusion of it all, where it used to be if you were like famous, recognizable, you played yourself. Like in this world, Larry David is Larry David. You know, everyone from like Shaq, Wanda Sykes, like Rob Reiner, Paul Reiser. It's like if you have any bit of fame in front of or behind the camera, you are yourself. And then you would have like the character actors play other people, like Bob Odenkirk before he was really famous. Richard Kind. You have those like the character actors playing the supporting characters around it all. Now it's just you never know. It's like a wild guess each week. There was an episode where like Conan is himself in the episode. Okay, that makes sense. Very distinct. It's Conan. But then it's like Steve Buscemi and Sean Hayes are in the same episode and they're not themselves. Yeah. It's just it's like a weird thing to wrap your head around. And then you go to like the past seasons where it's like, okay, Julie Bowen, Kelly Cuoco, Josh Gad, they're not themselves. But then you have people like Dylan O'Brien, Lily Collins are.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, like I'm not saying Julie Bowen and Kelly Cuoco are A-list, but they're very recognizable and 9, 10, 11 seasons of a hit sitcom. It's like, they're known.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was...
didn't he have an explanation on this? And it didn't sound like a very good one.
He said something, but man, it didn't make sense where it was just like, oh, when they lost, Super Dave, Bob Einstein there, like, they needed somebody kind of, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but like to deliver some like really important stuff, and you need a really like skilled comedic actor in that role. So that's where they bring in the Vince Vaughn character, which I got a lot to say about in a minute. But it's like, do you? Like, I'm sure like at the end of the day, like you found Leon, you found JB Smoove, like you found somebody that is a very gifted comedic improviser.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure you could find somebody else as well. Like it really like, I don't know. It's just like back in the day, like, I mean, I know it's a little different, but like Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen really married, played a married couple on the show. Okay, it makes sense. And then like this second half, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda on the show, and his wife is there. It is important, but it's not his wife. America Ferrera is playing his wife. It's like, what? Like that's just confusing to the audience because that's America Ferrera. We know her.
Yeah.
She's an Oscar nominee now, but like it just adds something when you have like even the season, like Troy Kotzer, Michael J. Fox telling Larry David off. Like it makes it just seem like more real. And yeah, is this just me, or is this my soapbox I'm on?
Maybe a little bit. Like I'm able to kind of go with the flow because it's like comedy. I'm willing to like suspend my disbelief a little bit more and just let him go with the flow. But I'm pretty sure he was on something and said that basically, like, for instance, Steve Buscemi has a colostomy bag. They're like, we don't really believe Steve Buscemi would have a colostomy bag, so we've got to make him a different character. Whereas like Conan can, but it's just like wild because like why, like I love Steve Buscemi, but like why do you need Steve Buscemi?
Why do you need Steve Buscemi in that role?
Yeah, true.
So it's like
I agree. And
like and like what we have here with like Vince Vaughn as one of the Funkhausers, it's like this never made sense. And again, I'll extend my disbelief. It's a TV show. I get it, but like you also have Ben Stiller in this world. He worked with Larry on the Producers musical. They did a whole arc. Ben Stiller exists. So who was in Dodgeball? Like, just a Funkhauser lookalike, I guess. Like it's just when you get to a certain level, I get it. Especially the rise in fame. Bob Odenkirk in the beginning, Porno Gil, and then he's Better Call Saul. Like you couldn't have predicted that over 24 years. But like it's just like when you're already a very successful B-list, A-list person to just not be yourself and just were pretending you're, I don't know, it never even just made sense of him in that family. I feel like so Bob Einstein.
Yeah, so I think we talked about Vince Vaughn in that character before and how it was like, it was just so. I really don't think this is gonna sound terrible, but I don't think he added much to the series as a whole. I mean, there were maybe a few moments that were funny, but I don't think Vince Vaughn. They could have gotten somebody else for that role, if that's what you're saying. Like I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This could, I think, been played by anyone, or even like you find somebody like JB Smoove. I think he's one in a million, but like something to really elevate material. And at the end of the day, I will say I was kind of glad we didn't get Vince in the finale. We also didn't get Maria Sophia. We got Irma for like a second in some weird green screen
was just like,
cameo.
Why even bring her in then? That was my thought.
Yeah, it's like really we couldn't. do a little bit better. You're an HBO production. You couldn't. It's literally a box. Like just put her in the juror box or whatever it is. But with all that being said, I like how the finale had like the core group. You got, whether, with Leon, with Jeff, with Susie, with Ted, Richard, Jerry came back, Cheryl. It's like you had the people that made this thing essential. Obviously, we're missing the original Funkhauser with Bob Einstein, but like you got the core group there and all playing off each other to close it out.
I think the little Ted Danson stuff that they add in is just such a good throwaway. It's like
because it's so good because like Larry even this with his lines in Seinfeld where he made George like compare himself to Ted Danson. It just adds so much because it is Ted Danson. But if Ted Danson was playing, Joe Smith, it's like it doesn't pack the same thing. But it's like, oh, it's Ted Danson. But in the finale, we had some other guest stars we can mention real quick. Allison Janney, Greg Kinnear, Dean Norris appeared. Any thoughts on these guys joining the group?
I thought Greg Kinnear was fine. I thought Larry's, I think it's Sanaa Lathan, I think that's her name. But Dean Norris, what was going on with that accent? It just fell all over the place, man.
That's my note. It kept like ebbing and flowing. Sometimes it was stronger. Sometimes it was really bad. It was not good. But
that was my only thing there was like, this seems like out of just, I don't know. It was all over the place. But I think he did a good job as like that judge that obviously doesn't like Larry.
Yeah. I will say, like, watching this, there was a point where I was like looking at like the jury box because I was like, oh, maybe they like snuck in some like cameos or like some people from like Seinfeld days because like in the Seinfeld finale, one of the jurors is one of the writers, like Spike Ferenstein. So like, oh, maybe they did something here. I couldn't recognize anyone. There was a point when even like the person right above Greg Kinnear's shoulder almost looked, but the age doesn't make sense because that was like 20 years ago. Almost was, I thought, like the prosecutor from the Seinfeld finale. So that would have been cool to add in like some of those like Seinfeld people.
I was wondering where you wanted to go Easter egg wise, like Banya's in the jury box.
But no, I mean, I he wouldn't be playing himself in this role, that's for sure. But I think one of the hardest laughs I had in the episode, well, I guess I had two, was Lewis talking about how he wanted to maybe adopt. And then it was like, you're going to adopt a 40-year-old? It's like, yeah, maybe a doctor or a lawyer or something. Like, I just thought that was Lewis still killing it. And then with Jerry, when he's talking with Leon never has seen Seinfeld and thinking that the show is all about just some weekly action and asking Jerry about, there's got to be tapes, right? If you guys, where are those tapes? He's like, and just like that, like back and forth. And then finally just like, Jerry's like, I'm not going to be able to convince this guy, so let me just go with it. And he's just like, yeah, they're all on laser discs. Like, it's just like, but any other moments stand out to you either in the finale or just like the season?
Oh man. I was looking back at some of the titles of the series. The Ken Kendra one was pretty funny. It just took me out just because, but that was funny.
Yeah. I saw that title. I was like, oh boy, I know where this is possibly going.
But the dream scheme, because I've thought of something like that myself, like just like trying to get out of something because of a dream. And then having him have the Gettysburg Address makes him want to urinate. It's like he's like
the Pavlov situation.
He's trained himself. But those are good. Definitely the back half. Very, very solid episodes.
I like the stuff with like the text chain, him being added somebody like 3 in the morning, where it's like, I don't know this person, and yet being obligated to like or add something to the chain. That, and there was like the misunderstanding with Vince Vaughn's girlfriend there working for Disney. Not as a executive, as a character at the Disney store. But that was a fun little group in there. But all right, I mean, is there anything else left to say about Curb? I mean, John, are you gonna get back in on Curb?
I'm okay. I've heard enough. I mean, you guys saying that he's reusing his own jokes is enough for me to be like, yeah, I don't need more of the same. Like,
I mean, some of the jokes are good. I mean, they're very good jokes to reuse. So
I you know what? There's so much stuff to watch. This is not high
Yeah.
on the list. We'll put it that way.
yeah. I know what's really high on the list for John. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. I know you're excited for the sequel. I know
bought my
you
tickets
are.
already.
You bought them. It's in theaters. You can watch it. But no, we're talking about the original, the classic Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So let's set this up. First time in 7 years we lost this Oscar bet by 1 or 2 points. I don't remember the exact total, but it was because of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, whatever, Godzilla -1, forcing us to now watch this Razzie award-winning film. This one swept the Razzies this year, going 5 for 5, with wins for worst prequel, remake, or sequel, worst screen couple, worst screenplay, worst director, and worst picture. So 5 for 5. Oh boy! But despite all that, it was a commercial success. Earned $5.2 million off a $50,000 budget.
Oh my god!
There's sequels and spin-offs coming, which we'll get to in a little bit. But give me your thoughts on this film, John. I want you to start me off. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
I'm just an innocent bystander. I didn't even get a choice in like what picks we had. I'm paying the price for you guys not looking ahead. But
You guys, do we still have the text message?
Oh, come on, man.
but
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what you would expect. It's just it was just nothing in it was overtly scary. I was confused because in the cinematic, the intro cinematic, it seemed like spoilers. They killed Christopher Robin, but then did they kill him? Was he back? Was it somebody else? I didn't know if I could determine if that other guy was the same person.
I think it was supposed to be Christopher Robin, but the way they make it seem, it's like they killed him, but no, he's fine.
The cinematic is like, he's dead, dude.
Fine.
And then all of a sudden, now he's here. Like how many years later? So I don't know. The whole thing, like even in the beginning, like the acting, it was just like, oh, they wouldn't hurt us. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they must have gone feral. Like he felt like he had that information that like they all went bad and like just flipped immediately. It was like not like, oh, what's going on? It's just like, oh no, they're bad. Like I don't know. I think there's a reason why we didn't check this out. Besides under duress, but
just going off that point, John. But him just being like, is it because I left? Yeah, it's not because it's like what you're just assuming that from what? I mean, you just see this dude in a Winnie the Pooh mask.
He's smart. He connected the dots. He could figure it all out.
Oh my
he went to college.
Oh man.
Oh my. Yeah.
This.
I will say before I let you go. I feel like the concept is there.
Yeah.
The concept. The illustration, like the opening. I'm like, okay, it's crude, but it fits the theme.
That was the best part.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I see what we're doing here. We're setting up. You have Christopher Robin. You have the pieces. But then you're like missing just like core points to this. Like, first of all, where's Tigger?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, isn't there more than Pooh and Piglet? I was like, where's the other guy?
They mention in the opening, you got Pooh, you got Piglet, you got Eeyore. It's like, but you can at least mention Tigger. Like, he's one of the core four there or whatever. Like,
it's because they could only afford those two masks at Party City when they were making this movie.
So they ate Eeyore. They mentioned Owl, but did not show Owl at all. Yeah. So they must be saving him for the good stuff for the next episode, I guess.
And then there, like, what? There's a rabbit too, right? Is it just Rabbit? Is his name? I can't remember. The yellow.
Yeah, the one
rabbit,
on the left here on the image. Yeah, and that wasn't shown either. Yeah, so they skimped a little. I didn't even think about that while I was watching it.
I'm telling you, it's just whatever mask they could find. I swear to God.
Yeah. And it's just like, and even just like the basic thing where it's like, like in the illustration, like narration open, it's like, Christopher Robin leaves and they're forced to fend for themselves. And it's like, okay, like they're animals. like there's no free handouts. Yeah. Like, come on, get. He took care of you for this long, you got to do something yourself here. Like, you can't rely on him
turn into bloodthirsty.
Your entire life.
What were they doing before he came? Like, they have no instincts at all anymore.
Yeah, like that's their motivation, but it's like it was just like so like basic, and it's
Of
like,
course.
and that's the thing where it's like that's what annoys me. It's like you have the pieces, and then you're just like, eh. It's like, no, you could actually do something like creative and fun with this, but you just did something, and who knows, maybe it's just solely based on the title, and like we talked about it, I'm sure, as an in and out point when it initially came out. It's like that interest made it like, ooh, like what is this? And then it's like, oh, this is still just bad. It's bad. Kyle, I kind of cut you off before you can give your full review. You got more stuff to break down, but any other like just overall thoughts of just this whole experience?
I agree with you about it being like an interesting idea, but the execution, the I mean, whatever, it's a $50,000 budget and they made a ton of money, but I wouldn't say this is good. I mean, it's far from good. The writing is bad. The acting is bad. The costumes are not great. It's just overly generic. We hit these cliche plot points. It's like we get this traumatized girl who's then, has to stop at the gas station, and it's just like all of these points.
That's one of my questions with that. So I believe her name is Maria.
Yeah.
And she's like being stalked or something.
Yeah.
And there's a man who even makes it into her bedroom
Yeah.
at one point, before the events of this movie, starts undressing her in the night. Does this ever come back? Like, does this guy or like storyline or anything connect at all?
Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. They introduce the lesbian couple, and it was like that was their characterization. They're the lesbian couple. That's why you should care. They're the lesbian couple. And then like it's all one note characters. There's no fleshing them out in any way. And in fact, let's go back to this point. She goes to the gas station. You think she's alone, right? That's how they make it seem.
I thought so.
They go into the store, and then you hear a honk, 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 and apparently she's got 4 other people with her. I'm like, what? Did I miss something?
Yeah, and I'm also just confused. Like, again, to go back, like you had the points. So like this starts off. We get the 5-year time jump where Christopher Robin comes back, or with his girlfriend there to see his old friends. They immediately kill the girlfriend. 11 minutes in, I'm like, oh my god! Like I thought these two were going to be our people for the movie.
Hang on before you go on. My thought was, oh man, 11 minutes. This is what I could do.
This is it. Perfect. The short film version, TikTok. But okay, sure, Christopher Robin is tortured and later ends up escaping, blah, blah, blah. But shouldn't it be him and his friends that we are following in the targets of this film? Instead, we spent all of our time with Maria and her friends. It's like, who? Who are these people?
Yeah.
Like, why should we care? Like, do this with Christopher Robin, his girlfriend, maybe like another couple that they know, and like a 5th, comic relief. That's your 5 people. But instead, you kill off these people, you sideline them, and then you bring in these like boring, like one-dimensional, maybe zero-dimensional characters.
Well, I mean, the only other thing that I could think of is, honestly, I was like, is the director okay with like women? Because I'm like, sure enough, the first woman that's killed, I think, is like her shirt just happens to be ripped off, and then it's just like, does the director have problems with women? Like it's so messed up. Like I don't know, just very, very
like
strange and weird.
I really thought that we're gonna have like Christopher Robin, like maybe like not like as a spy, but like as like being forced to bring people back to the woods for them. It's like, oh, you want to live, Christopher Robin? You're gonna have to feed us. You're gonna have to go get these people and like maybe like sweet talk them into staying or like doing these things, and then bring them back to our like lair or something. But even like the basic idea that like these Pooh and Piglet and all these people are so hungry that they need food, and that's why they're killing all these people, that I feel like is like thrown out because we have these like big like B-movie horror deaths, but like every time I'm watching, it's like, you guys are wasting a lot of meat here. Like the woman that you mentioned that goes topless, Kyle, goes into like a wood chipper, and it's like, okay, maybe like if you're looking for like a stew, maybe you could use that, but it's just like it flies everywhere. And then you're decapitating people, you're running the body over with a car into pavement, and it's like you're kind of like wasting a lot. Like, I know there's not that much in maybe the head, but you can eat the brain. You could, like, don't leave anything to waste if you're that hungry.
Well, weren't they doing it to like harvest honey, or that's what Winnie the Pooh was doing? He was like making some kind of weird honey concoction out of the blood, right?
Well, I guess maybe that's what he was doing out of the blood, because like at one point, they shower Christopher Robin in blood, and I'm like, really, like, you're not gonna drink that? Like, you don't let anything go to waste.
I weirdly,
you're that hungry.
You know what? That showering with blood thing, though, I'd never seen that done before. So I actually thought that was a cool moment. I'm like, wait, they actually thought of this. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. But I just like wish like almost like we incorporated like the animal aspect of it all. Like maybe it's like give me bear traps. Give me like some archery hunting thing. Like it's like, oh, now it's on the other foot. Like you were hunting animals, but no, we are going to hunt you now. It's like, no, it's like instead they got into someone's car. It's just like,
to build
that doesn't
off
make
that,
sense.
To build off that, in the intro when he's going in there, they have like a civilized hut with like a car out front and like a fire and like, all these things. It's like,
that's more than I have.
Are these animals or these people? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Definitely, and they were using like Wazaga said in chat. Why does he need a hammer? He's a bear. He doesn't have claws. He can't like jump on somebody and just maul him. Like,
yeah, I know the budget is like $10 for this thing, but like Pooh is just like too human, and the mask is like too stiff.
Yeah,
and he's like dressed as like a lumberjack. It's like at least do the classic red shirt, no pants, like have him running around on all fours, clawing people, like. It's just he never speaks.
I know.
Like maybe it's just because if he did, it would be like too kiddish. But like we need motivation. Like if you look at like Scream with Ghostface, he doesn't talk, but there's like a personality there.
Yeah.
Like you can feel the character. This It's just like this is just literally
it's a dude
some stand-in that they put a mask
yeah.
on. It's not. I don't know. It's just. You mentioned the thing with the blood. I think one thing that was actually interesting to me, there was like one moment that I thought was actually pretty cool where, again, I don't know why this woman, like in the hot tub, after seeing something weird behind her, continues to
I know
face behind.
Dude, yeah.
Other than that, okay, go.
Sorry, because it's not just like you're in the city and there's a bunch of people around, It's like you've got a creepy dude on the end of a cul-de-sac in the middle of nowhere. What do you think?
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you ruin my time. And
turn 180 degrees so you can at least see what's going on and have your back to the building. But anyways, when she's doing this, the light is flickering, and it's kind of almost like a strobe effect where you see like one, and then you see like him a little closer. And then you see like Piglet appear, and it's like, oh, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, the buildup of that, the suspense there. But that was it. I mean, everything else was
the rest
just
of
the
that
classic,
scene was
like slanted shots. It's just like too just over the top. And
I have so many notes, dude.
Yeah. I mean, this is the most like engaged like with notes I've had for a very long time. I don't know what that says, but like another unanswered question. So Pooh and Piglet at one point put "Get Out" on the windows of like their Airbnb.
Yeah.
But it's like, but don't you want them to like
it's the thrill of the chase, man.
But it's like also it's like, yeah, get out, go home. We don't want you here. It's like, but you do. You want to kill them and eat them. So like you want them here.
So this, mind you, this is after they've seen their friend mauled, right?
Yeah.
And then, so they know someone is out there, and or I think they've seen a shadow of them, right? And then we get the line, after seeing Get Out, they say, whoever it is probably wrote that. And I'm like, you think? You think?
Could be. What made you think that?
Oh my God. Dude, wild. Also, we have to go back to...
Yeah.
They all put their phones in the center, right? This is a no phones retreat. And everyone, mind you, she goes, when they find out, when they see all this messaging massacring happen, she's like,
Yeah.
I brought a gun. She brings a gun to a no phones retreat. Are you?
You never know. You gotta be prepared.
Also,
You gotta be ready.
Wasn't the girl in the hot tub taking photos of herself too with her phone? So like, it only applied to some of them. Like,
Yeah, like they were supposed to all put it away or whatever, but it's
Inside the house, no
stupid.
phones. Outside the house, you
But
can
it was
have
supposed
phones.
to be like a getaway, and she's like,
Yeah.
let me bring my Magnum, because it wasn't like a little pea shooter, it was a giant gun.
And it's wild too, like for somebody who's like so scared to be like, I don't know, like she has this weird stalker. Sure, she's like going out to the middle of nowhere kind of thing, but isn't that going to be more scary to be in the middle of
I
nowhere?
know,
Like,
yeah,
don't you
I
want
thought
to
the
be
same
like?
exact thing. I thought the same exact thing. Also, the music, there was twice the music was playing underneath. Did you watch this with captions?
I don't think
The
I
song
did. Yeah.
playing underneath that was like, like the lyrics were someplace that smell, someplace that smell, and then the next lyric is like after the humming is something. I'm like, is this an Easter egg? Is this what do these lyrics mean? Like they didn't add anything in there? I don't know. I was like, what is happening?
No, man. There's so many questions. Like at one point at the end, does Pooh like control nature and get the bees to swarm someone? Like the way he moves something at one point, like it seemed like there was like all these like bees out of nowhere, like come and like attack somebody, and it's just like he has like magical powers all of a sudden. Like if that's the case, why not like control deer to come and have so he can eat the deer? I don't know. Like it's just. I guess it only works on bees because of the honey he's growing from Christopher Robin's blood shower thing. There's so many questions. And thank God we're going to get answers in all these sequels because, yes, we're getting sequels. We're getting a lot going on here. So Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 is in theaters now. And it actually has a higher Rotten Tomato scores than the first one. So the first one has 3% critic score, 50% audience score. 50 is way too high. 3% is more accurate. The new one, number 2 here, has a 52% critic score, 80% audience score. At this rate, the third one is going to be, the next Oscar Best Picture at this rate.
Maybe.
But, not only is part 3 coming, that was announced this week, we are going to get the Poohniverse, if I'm saying that correctly here.
God.
Poohniverse Monsters Assemble will be an Avengers-style mashup in which these murderous versions of these child creatures will duke it out with other beloved Disney characters that have fallen into the public domain. Among them are Bambi. That would be a crossover. That'd be fun. Among them are Bambi, Tinkerbell, Pinocchio, Peter Pan, the Mad Hatter, Sleeping Beauty, on top of all of our Pooh friends, Piglet and Tigger and all that.
So just all of the Disney characters that have gone into the public domain.
Disney characters, yeah.
Okay.
And so not only do we get this like Avengers Assemble, but like the MCU, you can't rush into the Avengers Assemble. You gotta have the standalone films first, and many of the characters that are going to be in this universe will have their first feature in standalone films coming this year and following. In this twisted childhood universe, we're going to get Bambi the Reckoning, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, and Pinocchio Unstrung.
Oh my God. I think when it comes to these types of movies, I think they're just hoping to be the first ones out there rather than have it be good because...
Oh, yeah. It's all about speed at this point. And, like, capitalize it while you can, while it's still like, oh, this is fun. This is, look at this. This is unique. And it really does feel like an SNL bit. I remember there was 2 that are coming to mind. There was one with, like, I think they're making fun of, like, the Disney live action movies, and they had, like, Bambi with The Rock, like, playing Bambi. And then there was, like, this one with David Harbour when it was the time the Joker came out, that they were doing like Oscar the Grouch, and he was like Oscar the Grouch, in the trash can kind of thing, but in like the 70s New York, like in Joker and stuff, with all the Sesame Street characters. That's what this feels like. It's just like, but it doesn't have any of the fun of those movies. Like, at the very least, make these fun.
Yeah.
Make these like the Freddy versus Jason, like those type of like, movies. Like, it's just, you can be bad, but you can be fun too. Like, it's just,
I mean, I was laughing at certain points so much. Oh my God, dude. When the 4 dudes come out to protect the 2 girls, the lines that were just put out there were just fantastic. I died laughing at this line delivery. It was just insane. But
yeah, so it sounds like Kyle's going to be in for the sequel. John, are you going to be checking out this next one?
Yeah, next time we lose
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be getting a Razzie next year. At this rate, with those Rotten Tomato scores, we might be okay.
We might have to watch it because it's good and it's nominated.
Yeah. It might be a Best Picture nominee, so we'll see. Oh, man. All right, that's all we have for our 2 back in time segments. What a whiplash between those 2. I'm going to give you another whiplash in this next segment, the quick checks. Just enough time to do some quick checks tonight. We talked about Curb tonight, which started in 2000. And we talked about a Razzie film, won 5 Razzies, including Worst Picture. Well, I'm going to do the opposite of that and talk about an Oscar winner from 2000, which won 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. I finally saw Gladiator.
You'd never seen Gladiator?
I don't believe so. I mean, I might have seen clips here and there, but I
haven't seen it.
So
whoa, dude, you gotta watch it.
Yeah, John, you got actually. I'm gonna spoil a little bit here.
Tell
of this
me why,
24-year-old
Dave.
movie.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say. Okay, so not everything holds up. Like, you got the dream sequence, death flashes, kind of moments that are very 2000 stylized. Like, that stuff is a little, I mean, it's of its time. But there was actually so much like practical fighting, practical sets that it was such a nice return to. Because nowadays you would have these, big battle sequences, armies and stuff like that done on like the volume, done in that like just giant studio with the video screens behind them that you get probably in House of the Dragon now and all that kind of stuff. You're not getting it like it was done in 2000, and it just adds so much realism. It just makes it just feel more just real, and you can really get invested into it. And like, when I first saw the runtime, I was like, 2.5 hours. Okay, this might be long. It flew by, and I thought there's a lot to cover. I mean, Russell Crowe's obviously good, but Joaquin Phoenix, he's just so good as the slimy, conniving Commodus. It's just like you're really rooting at the end for Maximus to win in the final fight, especially after the cheap shot Commodus does and with that stab and put the armor back on. You're like, just get this guy. And so like you have all that, even though you expect that. Like there's so much things, because like it came out in 2000. There's probably so many people that have parodied it, copied it, but like it still works. And it really makes me wonder what they're going to do with the sequel. Yeah, the sequel that's coming out this fall. I have no idea what to expect. I had the really dumb thought that during the film when, we're seeing Russell Crowe talk about his son and his wife. There's a moment when, Russell Crowe's going back before other people meet his son and wife. And I'm like, oh, maybe the son here is going to be Paul Mescal. And I tell that to my wife, and she doesn't say anything. And then literally like 30 seconds later, the kid's not going to be in the sequel. So it's like, oh, okay, well, that was a dumb thought. But no, instead Paul Mescal will be Lucius, who is in this film. Last seen 15 years ago, living in the wilderness now. And he thinks his mother is dead, but his mother will be returning. The actress will be returning for this sequel. So there's some connection there at least. But then we're going to get additions of Pedro Pascal, Denzel Washington. So the cast is really stacked.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what obviously Ridley Scott does here. He can be, I feel like, a hit or miss recently. But then when you have a track record of like Alien, Blade Runner, The Martian, so much good stuff, it's like, all right, I'll check it out. Like, I'm going in with a little hesitation because, like, why mess with something that was a Best Picture winner 24 years ago? Is it gonna work now? But it might. It might, you know. So
yeah, dude, Gladiator is such a cool movie. So many good quotes. Very, very good.
Yeah. It's crazy that, like, Are You Not Entertained comes so early in the film.
Yeah.
I thought that was gonna be like a big moment at the end. It's like, oh no, we're just a few minutes in and we're getting that classic line. But all right, that's all I got for Gladiator. Kyle, I think you saw something a little bit more contemporary.
Yeah, I saw something a little bit weird. Sanctuary. I think the poster or the image does it justice right there. This is really almost feels like a play. We're kind of boxed into a hotel room, and we have this heir apparent to this fortune, played by, I think his name is Christopher Potter. He's been in a lot of different things.
Or Abbott,
yeah.
I think.
Oh, Abbott, yes.
Yeah.
And he's very good. I like him. And then we have Margaret Qualley playing this kind of woman that he hires to perform weird sexual acts with, but it's just very strange. And I know what they're going for. They are trying to shock you in a way, but it feels forced a lot, even with the good acting. So basically, she's there to guide him. They don't knowingly start this way, but it feels like this psycho relationship that eventually leads to his revelation of how he's going to run this company that he's come into money-wise and everything. And it feels forced with like the sexual parts to it. And it just, yeah, that takes away from the acting. The production design is cool, but it just feels too forced a lot. So it forces the dialogue and even a lot of the stuff that's happening. And then it turns at the end to like a wild ending that doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't know if I'd recommend this one. But yeah.
That's too bad, because I can't remember. We might have seen this trailer together. I remember seeing the trailer and I'm like, all right, two great actors, production design. Okay, this seems interesting. This seems cool. But yeah,
it just feels like they're trying to shock you with something, and it's like this isn't doing anything
like for it.
Yeah, it's like it's just doing too much kind of thing.
Yeah, I get you. All right, so we got one thing we're recommending, one thing we're not recommending. John, what do you got? Are you going to recommend it?
I got something right in the middle. No, I got something I'm going to recommend.
Right.
Like last time, I'm gonna play a little music in the background. I'm sure I'll probably talk longer than the music, but
this smell.
Anyway, so I'm talking about Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I got a couple of pictures going on slideshow here. This is basically the 8th mainline story in the series, but there was some in between. There's a bunch of other side stories and stuff that goes on. But anyway, this is a game that has been in Japan for the entire length of the series up until this game. They're finally coming to America. They go to Hawaii. And I'm not going to say a ton about the actual plot and all that. I enjoyed it. I think I more want to talk a little bit about some of the meta stuff surrounding it. The developers... There was some change in people who were making it. So some people stepped up and some people left. And I think they kind of retconned a little bit of what happened in the 6th game in order to bring back one of the characters into this game and kind of give him a different ending. Some of the stuff felt a little bit fan servicey as far as that other character. Kiryu is the character. And he's the one on the right now. And it's a little bit weird that they would do that, but it worked. I mean, as a fan of the game, I enjoyed it. Danny Trejo is a character, if you didn't know that.
Danny Trejo as Danny Trejo?
No.
Because it's not a Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm thing?
No, he was as somebody else, but I believe he voiced the English version of them. Much like we had discussed, Kyle, a couple weeks ago about was it Shogun with the English and the Portuguese and all that. The English dub in this has got to be weird because there's a couple of spots in there where they're talking Japanese and they're like, "Oh, I don't speak English," and like there's a lot of stuff that's some of it's delivered in English, some of it's delivered in Japanese. So I played it in Japanese because that's the original language. Speaking of that, we had some stuff like karaoke, which is a staple of the series, where the Japanese version was excellent. This is one of the tracks, I think maybe the highlight track from the karaoke, an instrumental version of anyway. But then on the flip side of that, you had the English version of these tracks, which were pretty bad and had a lot of like time stretching on the vocals, and you could really hear it. It started to sound like kind of robot-y. So overall, I did enjoy the game. I think some of the more meta stuff about it brings it down a little bit. And I think the most egregious thing that they have is typically the way these games go is after you beat it, you can do what's called like New Game Plus, where you can replay the game with the powers you have and all that, and it's a little bit easier. That is now locked behind a DLC, so you have to pay money for it, which is new for the US. It was like that for one of the previous games in Japan, but it's new for the US. They also, with that, locked the difficulty settings behind paying for the DLC and beating the game once, which I was kind of disappointed in because most of the game was pretty easy. This is a turn-based game for the most part, and once you get ahead of that difficulty curve, it's too easy, So I kind of wanted to play it on a harder difficulty from the start, but overall, like I said, I enjoyed it. I think there's just a couple of meta things for some of the more the people who've played all the other games and kind of know what's going on that are a little disappointing, but I definitely would still recommend it if you're into turn-based games and are looking for a game with maybe some of the most dramatic story, and then you flip it 180 and the side quests are like these wacky things where, as an example, somebody was trying to get snow in Hawaii for their dying wife, and they couldn't find snow anywhere because it's Hawaii, and he's buying all these like shaved ices and trying to like make them into snow. And it turns out there's a gang of Yakuza from Japan who are visiting, who like to run around only in diapers. And when they got when they got the shaved ice and the diapers, it was like snow. So they took their entire supply up to the roof and started throwing it off so it would float through the window to the guy's dying wife, so she would see this crazy sub-stories. Some of them are hilarious.
Was that your experience in Hawaii, Kyle?
For sure. Yeah. Bunch of people in diapers just running around.
But so yeah, again, I would definitely recommend pretty much any game from this series, but this one was good, so I would definitely recommend it.
Yeah, now groove and music, that's like 2 for 2 with the soundtrack so far you played, John. Definitely some good stuff. All right, well, that's it for this week. Next week, we got 2 other things to talk about. We have a movie, not Winnie the Pooh, number 2. It's not that. It's Civil War, the movie, not the current situation, and Fallout, the TV show, not the current situation. So we got 2 big things to talk about, kind of sci-fi-ish related stuff going on next week. And then at the end of the month, it's hard to believe, but the box office draft. A lot to do. Make sure you are following us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, doordynasty.com. We are live on Twitch, twitch.tv/doordynasty, and on YouTube at the same time. Check out those live video shows that John is directing. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and on TikTok at Do Redundancy. I got to thank both you guys for joining me tonight, for suffering through the Winnie the Pooh movie. Hopefully, it's just every 7 years. Wouldn't that be great? Like, it's just the next 6 years, we're going to be fine again, and we won't have to worry. But, all right, until next time, I'm David Allen.
I'm the Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Do Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.